Meet Jennifer Lenhart, who holds a PhD in urban climate governance and has worked with urban environmental challenges for 15 years. She is global lead for WWF Cities, mobilizing action and support from cities in the global climate transition.
Hi, Jennifer. Great to see you. You're one of many experts I have interviewed or met during my 20 years of working with climate action. It's so great to have you with us here on the show. You have our full attention for your presentation.
All right. I am so excited to be here. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Fantastic.
Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to just start out by saying a huge congratulations to all the organizers of this fantastic event. I have been so impressed by all the speakers, the coordination. I really feel like we are actually sharing the room together. So thank you so much for all the work that you've done here. And my question that I want to talk to you about is how cities can play a key role in supporting the achievements set forth in the Paris Agreement. Well, a key question there first is why cities? Cities are home to 55% of population, and that number is growing. They're responsible for roughly 70% of carbon emissions. They occupy only 3% of global landmass, although that is also increasing. And they become crucial for meeting the 1.5 degrees Celsius target and therefore achieving the Paris Agreement. So within WWF, and of course, so many other organizations as well, we see cities as a real crossroads. And I think we're seeing that even more at this very moment, in line with the COVID crisis, in line with the climate crisis, et cetera. So how can we shift towards more sustainable cities? This is a moment to really wake up to where we are and where we want to go. What kind of cities do we want to live in? Do we want to live in cities full of traffic and air pollution and congestion and inequalities? Or do we want to live in cities that are more resilient, more equitable, healthier, with better access to diversified jobs, local renewable energy solutions, et cetera, et cetera? So within WWF, we see our role to kind of support and build this momentum on the cities of the future that we would like to see, those kind of sustainable, equitable, healthy cities. So about 5 or 7 years ago, we started something called the One Planet City Challenge. And this challenge is really a space to support cities. Now, we know that meeting the Paris Agreement is hugely challenging, but it is possible. And we see that the possibilities really lie in our cities. So we support cities to do something regarding their data reporting. Because why data? Well, if we think that cities are moving in the right direction, we really need that data in order to ensure that they are moving there. So we work with cities on the ground to do their data reporting. And then with that data, we can also see the gaps in knowledge, but also the connections. Should they be working on energy and transportation together? Are they already doing so? And then we can create a baseline in order to see the positive trends moving forward in individual cities and collectively. So far, we have worked with 600 cities globally around the world. In this most recent One Planet City Challenge, we worked with over 250 cities in 50 countries. So we're really, really excited about this. And I think a key part of the One Planet City Challenge is also about celebration. It's not just getting cities to do their data reporting, but to reward and recognize really ambitious cities that can be front runners and rock stars, if you will, to show us what is possible. A crucial thing here, though, at WWF is this is not something that we are doing alone. We do this in partnership with many, many organizations. So, for example, we encourage cities to report their reporting requirements that they already commit to when they join the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate Energy. We encourage them to use the combined reporting platform, which is run by CDP and ICLE. I know we've had CDP earlier in the week. So, this is where we filter them into the right places where the data is collectively being connected and achieved. And this year, I'm very excited to say that we have a new framework where we're actually taking that data and then we're breaking it down at the local level and seeing how closely cities are aligned with that 1.5 degrees Celsius target. And we're not the only ones doing this either. C40 Cities has really done a lot of initial work on this, especially with their Deadline 2020 report, which was quite visionary for us as well. So I just want to emphasize the importance of partnership here. Now, another partnership that we're very proud to be a part of is the Exponential Roadmap, which we've heard a lot from this past week. And I was very excited to be a part of the cities chapter within the Exponential Roadmap. And so I just wanted to share with you in particular a few city examples there within. Now, why cities within the Exponential Roadmap, and how is that kind of a solution space? Well, with climate change, we see, these very big and messy problems out there. And sometimes as an individual, you might feel like, what can I really do to achieve this? What can I do? But cities make climate action tangible. They are the places of innovation. They're the places where we see the changes that are happening in the cities, whether it's improvements in air quality, better transportation, your neighbor putting solar panels on their rooftop. And I just want to share a few solutions within the Exponential Roadmap that focused on cities. So already today, more than 70 cities have committed to and are using 90% renewable energy already today. More than 10,000 cities have joined the Global Covenant of Mayors and with very strong climate commitments. 23 cities, including 9 cities in Africa, have put together net zero targets by 2050. And when we talk about net zero targets, let's move on also to the Climate Ambition Alliance, which the Chilean climate champion Gonzalo Munoz put forward last year, and really calling on cities, businesses, other non-state actors to make strong climate commitments. And already last year, by the UN Climate Conference COP25, 400 cities had joined this Climate Ambition Alliance. And when we talk about exponential change, this year, that number, the new champion who we heard earlier in the week, Nigel Topping, has put that mark at wanting to get to 1,000 cities that are committing to net zero by 2050. So this is really exciting. This is also really difficult, but we can do this if we work together. And just this week, I'm sitting in the city of Santiago de Chile. And just this week, on Earth Day, the Mayors for Climate, the Alcaldes por Clima, was launched, which is calling to get 15,000 cities in Latin America to commit to the same targets. So net zero by 2050. This is really exciting. We see that these changes are already happening in our cities now. And it's not just about what cities are doing, but collectively, especially in these networks, they're putting that public pressure to just kind of fall on top of what Jana said earlier, to create that momentum of getting the action going forward. So in Europe, we see 200 cities that have been pushing the EU to make those net zero targets by 2050. Now, I just want to keep moving on a little bit here. And it's not just about what cities and city governments are doing, but it's also about what citizens are doing. So within WWF, we have something called the We Love Cities campaign, and this runs every other year. And it's a virtual campaign, but it's also connected to physical actions on the ground, perhaps a little less of the physical actions on the ground this year. But what this campaign does is it starts with creating love for your city. If you don't love where you live, how are you going to want to be part of the solution there? If you don't love where you live, how are you going to want to see how you can improve it? So we start with creating pride in where people live, and then we look at both informing local citizens about what their local governments are already doing, and we ask them for solutions or suggestions on what their cities could do better, whether it's improving recycling, biking, renewable energy, or more creative solutions like using art students to repaint sidewalks, for example. We've had a huge participation in this in the last run, which was in 2018. We had almost 6 million post engagements, and we had 100 million people see this campaign on social media. But what is exciting for me is not just what's happening virtually, even though this is crucial, as we've seen right now today, but it's also how people are connecting in their cities. Competitions between local governments and NGOs in Da Nang in Vietnam to see who could clean up more trash. Similar competitions in Miraflores in Peru which is a coastal city, so even more important to get the trash and not have it go into the ocean. So we see a lot of real strong engagements here in terms of how to, connect citizens, as we're seeing here today, virtually, but then to roll out and work together on the ground in the places that we call home. Now, just moving forward, right now we talk a lot about COVID, and we talk a lot about the health crisis and the scare. And I just want to share with you that 9 million people every year die of air pollution, almost 9 million, according to recent statistics. And 90% of human citizens are living in polluted areas. That being said, we can do something about this. We have seen also through the Exponential Roadmap that 3/4 of journeys are short journeys in and around our cities. So what if we did that by moving towards more sustainable transportation? Well, I'm not going to run through this whole clock here, but I'm happy to share with you later. But we broke down, if the average commute is 12 kilometers and the average time to get to work is 30 kilometers, we looked at how many people are dying from air pollution in that period of time, how much money we're putting in social and fossil fuel subsidies, but also where can, what are the health costs of that? And if we move towards more sustainable transportation, whether it's electric bicycles, conventional bicycles, or electric vehicles, how we can help to be really part of that solution. And we want to also connect this to remember that our air quality comes from nature. So we need to ensure that nature is in our cities. Doing so, now, if we look at the carbon law, which the Exponential Roadmap is also based on, and we look at halving emissions every decade as we go towards 2050, this is not only beneficial for the climate, but this is also beneficial for our health. So I just want to point that out for you here today. And now we come to COVID. I want to wrap up here and just a few quick images here. Now, this is a huge health crisis, but it's also an opportunity to start to rethink how our cities are planned. Between 40 and 60% of public spaces in cities are dedicated to cars. And how can we start to rethink that when we talk about what kind of cities we want to live in the future? Well, Milan has made just this week a great headway on dedicating, I think it's up to 35 kilometers or 22 miles that will be taken away from cars post-COVID and given to cyclists. We need to see this happening in more cities around the world. We need to see cities that are taking those spaces for cars and making those places for people and nature. We can do this. We have this possibility, and we're starting to see now that we can get there. So finally, within WWF, we see 2020 and now, frankly, 2021 as well as a key moment to reconnect with nature and to do this for people and for our climate and also for biodiversity. We are calling on companies, on cities, on the financial sector to join what we're calling a New Deal for Nature and People, and to put that bottom-up pressure so that national governments really commit to stronger ambition. And I think that's what I wanted to share with you today. And just to end on our motto at WWF, this is not something we're doing alone. We are doing this together. And I think that's what I've seen throughout this fantastic conference all week, that we are virtually separated, but very much connected. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer Lenhart. That was amazing. I'd like to ask you, you mentioned that WWF is encouraging cities to become rock stars in this field. So what rock stars do you have? What are your favorite rock star cities that work with this?
Excellent. Well, I mean, Katarina, I think first and foremost, my first hero is always going to be Malmö, where we met so many years ago. A great city in the south of Sweden that is doing fantastic things when it comes to technology and buildings. But I think key to what Malmö is so special in my heart still is its motto, lätt att göra rätt, which in Swedish or in English means easy to do the right thing. We have to make it easy for people. We can't make them feel that they need to do it. The governments and all the private sector as well, we have to support the right infrastructure to make the right change. If I could just point out a few others, Amsterdam is a city I called home for 5 years. And of course, first thing we think about Amsterdam is bicycles. But Amsterdam is doing so many fantastic things when we come to urban food systems, whether it's urban agriculture all over the city, but also really good food policies, working with schools to teach kids how to grow vegetables, but also to cook with those vegetables in order to bring in the health aspect as well. Some cities that have been really inspiring for us at WWF, and I know we're going to have the city of Pune, a representative from Pune featured here, and they've done some in India. They've done some great things with smart street design, bringing people to the center. Johannesburg in South Africa has worked on corridors of freedom to connect disenfranchised communities. So I think we see really positive examples all over. Medellin in Colombia went from having, a really complicated situation in terms of crime, and has then flipped that city around, whether it's buildings, public engagement, a fantastic transportation system, including one of the most innovative they use gondolas to get around that beautiful, beautiful city. Finally, in Santiago, where I'm based now, we see a lot of public engagement, and we've had, of course, a social crisis over the last few months, but there's also been a real opportunity to rethink how we can bring in equity at the center of climate and at the center of urban design.